Hello and welcome to the 69th episode of Game, Develop, Repeat. I am your host, Chris, and I have got a lot of things to talk about today. The first of which is a bit of a failure that I've made. I should have recorded this episode yesterday. Why? Because this is the 69th episode, and today is 4/21. I could have recorded the 69th episode of my podcast on 4/20. I will never get that chance again, and I didn't realize it until today. Does that matter? Is that important? No, but something in me just goes, man, that would have been funny, I could have remembered that. That would have been funny. But it's okay. I will get over this trauma. I will get over this deeply painful failure that I'm experiencing here. Now, and I hope you'll forgive me. The other stuff we have to talk about, I'll actually give you announcements for once. I never do this. It has come to my attention through one of the Discords that I'm involved in that Brackeys has started making Godot content. Brackeys is starting back up and he's making Godot content. If you don't know who he is, famous Unity teacher, I would say. YouTube Unity teacher. Well, he's coming back and he's coming back for Godot. So if you're interested in learning Godot, take a peek. See how that'll go for you, because he'll be making the content kind of as we go here, right? So perfect timing. The other thing I want to talk about is how badly my current game jam is going. Game jam, it's kind of a personally imposed game jam. I'm making a game in the span of a month. It's a whole thing. I've been doing it on stream a lot. It's not going well. It's a bad game, and I want to get into that some later. Most importantly, I want to talk about the gameplay loop of game development. I'm thinking about gameplay loops because my gameplay loop is not good right now. And then I started thinking gameplay loops in development. Gameplay loops, looping cycles of development. I started thinking about this partially because I saw the number 69 and went, that is a snake eating its tail. That is a yin and yang. That is a loop. That is a cycle. That is something that can inspire me for a topic for this episode. And it did. And now I'm really excited to talk about this stuff. So let's jump straight in there. Let's get going. Let's talk about gameplay loops in games first and use that as a jumping off point for a deeper discussion about the loop of learning to develop games, learning anything else, and then maybe a little bit, I'm not sure yet, but maybe just a little bit about some theories I have on some game industry cycles, some weird stuff there. We might dive in. We'll see. Let's get there. Let's get going. First things first. Gameplay loops and why my current project sucks. Normally, I wait to talk about my current project until the development section, but it is so relevant to gameplay loops that I just have to mention it. Every game needs some kind of a thing propelling you forward, something that makes you want to keep playing, some kind of progression, some kind of exploration, some kind of discovery, some kind of challenge, something. And I don't think I have a full understanding of why we call it a gameplay loop. I sometimes think of it as like a constant linear thing, but there is a repeated behavior that we're doing whenever we're playing a game. Well, the game I'm working on right now, the 1 month project that I'm working on, has no gameplay. And I know that sounds a bit odd, but it is a collection of mechanics with no underlying thing. It is a character that can move around and fire. It's got the tiniest bit of art, and I mean the tiniest bit. And there are little enemies. That's it. You can move around, you can fire. There are enemies, they spawn. There's no difficulty, there's no structure, and there's not really a plan for it yet. So I sat down the other day and I went through and I tried to figure this out, and it got me thinking. I started figuring it out, adding some challenge, adding some stakes, adding all these things, and now I'm thinking about what different kinds of things in games propel us forward. let's go through very quickly a couple of my favorite games, right? Stardew is always the example that I jump to because it's easy to jump to. Everybody knows it, and I'm a little bit obsessed with it. It has a few different potential loops you can hook into. You can go through the mines, and you can keep trying to get deeper and deeper and deeper and do the combat. The combat gets more challenging. You get new gear, all this good stuff. Now, granted, the combat in that game is not ideal, but that's still a loop. It's still got something going on. Still solid, still discovering things. There's the loop of farming and making more money and getting new crops and seeing how they come out and getting new gear to help your farm along and upgrading your equipment so that you can farm quicker. There's this speeding up progression of farming. There's the loop of discovering things about the other villagers, getting to know them, learning what they like, seeing their reactions, all of this. There's the loop of exploring and discovering new things throughout the entire game, right? These are all different factors that make this game appealing, that make this game interesting. There's also like a whole energy management thing. And there's the fishing, which is its own wonderful, beautiful thing because I love fishing. Now let's talk about the gameplay loop of something like Path of Exile. Easy game to go to, or think Diablo 2, Torchlight, what have you. Path of Exile, all about building your character, getting stronger, developing more skills, getting new gear, random chances, a little bit of a gambling vibe there. You kill things, they drop rare items. You want rare items. Ooh, this rare item does exactly what I want. Dopamine. Woo! Right? Makes you happy. You got a shooter. There's tension and release. You're chasing something. You're avoiding something. You shoot it. Ah, now it's not shooting at me anymore. Oh no, something else around the corner. We continue through the loop. There's strategy games. You've got your Warcraft 3. You've got different sections of this. There's a chunk where you're building your economy while defending yourself. There's a chunk where you're attacking and trying to crush somebody else's economy. And there's all this gameplay built into that. There's all these features that somebody designed and thought about. Now, when I started working on this little game jam that I'm doing, I went, okay, I have a vague image of what this is. Let's go. And I just started working on it and just making fundamental mechanics, partially because I didn't know how to make those mechanics in Godot. So I went, okay, well, we got to just make the mechanics first and then we'll figure it out. And then we're 20 days into the month and the project needs to be finished by the end of the month and there's no game. It's just some basic mechanics, which was a good lesson to learn. Very good lesson to learn as a developer. That you can get lost in just building basic stuff, and then you have to go, oh, wait, I need to design a game, and there's not a game here yet. And you got to sit down, and you got to look at what you already have. You've got all these restrictions, and go, how can I turn this into an enjoyable game? Because you didn't do the design work up front for whatever reason. Not that you have to do the design work up front, but I feel like it would have been a good idea in this instance, and I feel like I'm probably going to do that next time around and see how well that works for me and for my process. The point is, there's got to be some kind of a sense of something that you're moving towards in a game, right? There's got to be something you're doing, something you're accomplishing. I think one of the most unfortunate feelings when you're playing a game is just, why am I doing this? Not like on a spiritual level, not like on that level where you go, why am I gaming when existential crisis? Not that kind of why am I doing it. The kind of why am I doing it where you go, why does this activity even exist in this game? What's the point of this? How is this entertaining? This is just something I have to grind through. I'm not enjoying this. Why am I even playing this game? I'm out. I'm done. Right? And my current project feels like that at all times. It's just like, oh, okay. And I think a lot of game jams probably feel that way. I think there's probably a lot of things where it's like, oh, you were figuring out how to make the mechanics, and that's fine. You figured out the mechanics. You've created a collection of mechanics. Honestly, that feels like step one for like learning, not step one. One of the earlier steps for learning to make a game is learning how to make things, like learning how to physically press the keys and get the code to work and get things to move in the right direction and all that good stuff. That's core. And then there's designing the actual game. It is a different skill. And those two things do not, they reinforce each other, but learning how to work in the engine and working out a code does not make you into a good game designer. And being a good game designer doesn't mean you're able to work in the engine and make the code, though it might inspire you to. I want to dig deep into these individual versions of game loops. So let's let's talk about different types of game loops, different things that motivate you and move you forward when you're playing a game, and how that might relate to the things that motivate you and move you forward when you are making a game. What draws you into a game, and then what keeps you going? What keeps you going? Is it a puzzle that you're trying to figure out? I think all programmers can immediately relate that back to their own game development. If you enjoy a puzzly game, you're probably going to enjoy the coding side of game development, the figuring out how exactly to put these pieces together to make something work, right? Overcoming that struggle. There's the exploration. Are you somebody who likes to play a game where you get to explore tons of different things and find out what's out there? Because if that's the case, then an element of creating a game that you might love is designing things, exploring your own mind, exploring the possibilities in this like universe that exists in your head, and kind of reaching out and creating things. And creation is almost a exploring activity. Like you're almost just discovering how you can combine different things. It's sort of like a Minecraft thing where you're going, okay, what if I put these two things together? What if I put these five things in this shape, right? You're going, what about this? Can I make something interesting here? Can I find some new tool or new methodology that helps me? Another aspect of this is leveling up. Do you like an RPG, a JRPG? Do you like something where your skills get better and better? This is not as direct. This is not as obvious. This is not as immediate. But if you track your progress in game development, you will see that you are leveling up pretty rapidly in some cases. Depends on how much time you can put into it, especially at the beginning. If you're just starting developing games and you track your progress, in a week, you're going to be doing stuff that you never thought was possible. In a month, you're going to be looking back and being like, oh, wow. But in a year, you won't remember what it felt like to not be able to grasp code at all, right? You'll get to this point. You'll get to this point where you go, oh, yeah, oh, wait, hold on, I'm struggling to remember what that felt like. Oh, yeah, that's what that felt like. That's the sort of leveling up. It can be a little weird. There's no big ding. There's no big shiny thing, but there is this feeling in your head. There's this moment where you realize that you've learned something you didn't learn before, and teachers see it all the time. If you've ever taught somebody, you see the light bulb moment. You see the look in somebody's eyes. You see when they go, oh, now I get it. I've had a lot of those recently, by the way. Mainly because I was screwing up dumb things. That's usually how it goes. But that's just a negative way to frame it, isn't it? You have a light bulb moment and you can go, wow, that's so cool that I've learned this new thing. This is incredible. Or you can go, wow, I really used to be, I can't believe I was so stupid before. No, it's not that you were stupid before. It's just that now you know a new thing. Now you know a cool new thing. Like I have learned over the course of Twitch streaming, I've learned to use class names in GDScript. I didn't even know that existed, which is wild that I didn't know, but now I do. And now it's another tool I have, right? I'm using singletons properly-ish. I'm still abusing them a little bit. I'm learning different methods. I'm learning these new tools. I'm learning how to navigate the engine. And a lot of these things are, oh, there's that one button that I didn't realize was there. Wow. Okay. Great. Done. That's part of why I'm so excited, by the way, about Brackeys coming around and doing Godot stuff, because I'll be able to consume his content as it comes out, and I will probably pick up on all these random important things that he knows are important that I don't know, right? It's like a little formal training in Godot, kind of very informal formal training, you know, gathering from somebody else's experience, somebody who is experienced in communicating that knowledge. I'm looking forward to that. We've talked about my own development a lot already. I don't think I'm going to do much of a dev check-in here. I did have one more thought about things that excite you about development and part of this cycle, right? So part of the cycle is moving forward, hitting that level up moment and going, ooh, now I have this new skill that I can use in a different way. Or going through and exploring new areas and discovering new things, discovering new tools, overcoming struggles, going, oh, this is difficult and I'm determined to beat this. I'm determined to get past this challenge. What about building a party or a community, connecting with other people? I think that's an important part of this process too. And this all depends on you. This all depends on what motivates you, what helps you, what keeps you moving forward. And I think every one of these things is important to me, and probably more. Any gameplay loop, any gameplay loop that you enjoy in a game can kind of be applied to learning skills. It's just not going to be as intense. It's not going to be as much dopamine. It's if that's even the right term. It's not going to be as strong of a kick, but it's going to exist. And if you can notice it, it might help move you forward a little bit. It might help you go, oh, you know what, it's kind of fun now that I'm thinking about it. I was intimidated, but now I'm kind of enjoying what I'm doing. And now I'm like meeting these people and getting to know more about game development and uncovering what this engine is capable of. And, oh, what is this tool that somebody just showed me? Oh, I suddenly know how to write in GDScript, and I used to have no idea how to write anything in code whatsoever. Or, oh, I've started to learn C# a little bit, right? Or wow, I've made a platformer before, but now that I'm making a top-down shooter, I feel like a beginner all over again, and so I get that joy of learning new things so much more quickly. Or just the feeling of, I used to think I could never pull this off, and now I know that I can, right? I used to think I could never beat this boss in Elden Ring, and then I beat it. I used to think I could never make a character controller in Unreal Engine, and now I can. I used to think I could never make a little pixel art, and now I can. These are not specific things I've done, actually. Have I done a character controller in Unreal in Unreal Engine? I don't know that I have. But these are these little victories that you get, these little wins that push you forward and make you, ooh, this is the cycle. And then, here's the other side of the cycle. There are moments in your game development, at least for me, where you go, God, I'm awful at this. You go, wow, why am I doing this? I suck so much. This is terrible. What a disaster. Who am I fooling? Especially like over here, I'm over here making a podcast, doing a Twitch stream, all this stuff, doing the Discord, and I'm like, what? Why am I doing? I'm struggling to make a decent game, like a fun prototype in a month. Why am I out here talking to people about games? And then I look around and I go, wait, what have I learned in the last year and a half, right? I'm just judging myself harshly. That's all this is, right? And I can go, yeah, I can look at this and I can go, wow, I'm terrible at this. And then I can reframe it a little bit and I can go, wow, there's so many things I can learn right here. There's so many skills that I can learn in this specific thing. And then those are going to be skills that I can help other people learn because I'll have navigated it. The game design issue that I'm running into right now, in the future, there may be somebody who comes to me and goes, hey, I know you said you struggled with this before. I'm this far into this project and it is just not fun. There's nothing enjoyable about it. And I may have some kind of value to offer them because I ran into that problem and then I went, okay, I can figure this out because I kind of have to, so I can figure it out. And then now I have that skill, right? Or I can look at it and go, oh no, I'm so bad at game design. I wasn't meant to do this. I wasn't meant to make games. I'm doomed, right? I can go down this whole negative spiral and be like, oh, it's awful. Why me? Why must I carry the burden of creativity? Oh no, it's so hard. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm getting too into this. It's just such I've fallen into and pulled myself out of this mindset so many freaking times where I start going, wow, I really suck. And then I go, no, you don't. You're just learning another thing. And these are hard things. And like, if somebody is learning something for the first time, you don't tell them that they suck. And just because you've been working on games for however long, or art, or music, or books, or some skill at your job, right? Just because you've been doing this in this role for however long doesn't mean there aren't new things. Just because you've been doing it for 10 years, something new comes along and you go, wow, how do I suck this much at this thing even though I've been doing it for 10 years? You don't. You've just encountered a novel situation. Congratulations, you're still learning after all this time. and you're noticing that you're bad at things, which means that you're learning instead of pretending that you know things and then causing problems. Anyway, that's my rant. And you may perceive this to some extent as cope for being bad at things. And maybe it is, but I think it's positive. I think it's useful cope. I think it's the kind of thing that drives somebody forward and enables them to get better and better at a thing that they love. And I do love game development. Every once in a while, I reach a point where I go, oh my God, why am I doing this? This is so much. This is such a huge undertaking, right? You look at it and you go, God, why am I doing the art and the music and the this and the that? And oh, it's so much stuff. And you look at it and you go, oh, because I enjoy it. And if I'm honest with myself, I want this struggle. I want to struggle with this stuff. It's enjoyable for me. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. I get to suck at this thing and then learn about it. I love learning about different things. And I suspect that all of you do too. I have a strong suspicion that everybody listening to this podcast on some level is like, I just freaking love learning things, and I don't like to admit it, but when something is miserable and awful and just the hardest thing I've ever dealt with, there's this little part of me that's like, ooh, I can't wait to overcome this problem. Okay? There's that little part of you that's like, oh, I'm going to beat that boss. Screw you, Elden Ring. I'm winning this, except in whatever category it is that you're passionate about. I think that little piece exists in everybody, where you're just like, I'm going to get there. This isn't going to stop me, whatever. And we may complain and we may hate it and we may suffer and we may be like, oh, why does this have to be so hard? But there's that part of us that goes, I love this challenge. Give me more. Bring it on. I'm up to it. Test me. See if I can take it, right? I think that exists. I think sometimes it's a little too active, and we end up grinding ourselves down to the bone and needing to take a rest, right? That can happen too. I think that's plenty of a rant about the development. Ooh, you know what? I did have one more thought. I said I might talk about my ideas on the corporate side of things a little bit, on the game development cycles of corporations. I guess I don't have that much to say on it, but I have one thought that I want to mention, which is, will the AAA game development companies, like the hugely successful indie companies, will they take the place of some of the AAA stuff? Will they be a separate market? Will the AAA companies stop having these big buggy releases? What's going on with that? Is there going to be a separate market? Are some of the good guys going to become the bad guys later? You know what I'm saying? That seems to be a pattern. There's a cycle there that I keep noticing. And when I see a cycle happening, I go, okay, is this a predictable pattern, or is this just a moment in time? We've seen this happen with Blizzard. We've seen this happen a little bit with Bethesda. We've seen this happen with EA was the old one. I wasn't around for that, but EA apparently did the same thing. They used to be the good guy, and then they became the bad guy, right? Is one of these indie companies going to become the bad guy, or are they going to have their own separate market? I feel like if any of them go public, they're a little bit doomed, because it seems like every games company that goes public, well, now you got shareholders, and now you just have to keep releasing the same thing, and you're going to lose some of your more creative people because they get fed up working on the same project and they want to go do their own thing, and they release their own company. It's a whole thing. But I'm curious how that's going to play out. And the only thing to do is wait and see. There's no predicting this kind of thing. But I just wanted to mention that. I also want to mention one thing really quickly. Game subscription services are in my mind almost guaranteed to do the same thing that Netflix did. You know what I'm saying? I feel like game subscription services are going to do the thing where they give you incredible value for a while, and then they start draining you for everything you're worth once you're locked in. So I am not using them. I am not a proponent of them, but I understand why people use them. They're just such a good deal, but that's how they get you. If you can resist that good deal, I don't know. I feel like the more people resist the good deal, the better, because I like owning things, I think it's nice to own things, because otherwise they're gonna just keep jacking the price up on you, right? It's horrific. I don't want to rent all my games. Yeah, it's a good deal now, but what's the deal going to be in 10 years? It's going to be bad. It's going to be really bad. Okay, that's my rant. Sorry to give you the negative side of that. Last little bit about my own game development. Like I said, not going that great, but I'm learning a ton from it. And I wrote up like a whole design doc. I've been using this website that somebody showed me on stream. It's called Excalidraw. Really useful for just doing quick like image mock-ups, and I even used it for a bunch of text while trying to figure out the design of my game. Very handy. Cool tool. Highly recommend checking it out. It's Excalidraw. A Google search should lead you there. Let's wrap this thing up with a couple questions. Two questions for this week. First one, what type of gameplay is most motivating for you? For me, I think it's a lot about learning things, exploring things. I think gameplay that flows really smoothly is very motivating for me. Anything that has like a smooth sense of development and progress. I like that. It's the smooth progression and also the occasional very satisfying major victory. Next question. What part of working on a project is most motivating for you? I like initial ideas a lot, but I really like fleshing something interesting out. So if I've got a clear idea and I really like want to see it become something, beautiful, but I need that idea to be pretty clear. If I have something clear that I'm working towards, I think that's extremely motivating and helps me enormously with getting my project going. I think. I'm not 100% on that. I think I need to test that more. But I suspect if I create more clear like design docs, not too clear because then it'll feel like I've already done the work, but stronger outlines that let me just smoothly flesh out the project, or more smoothly. It's never going to be smooth. Then I suspect that would be quite motivating for me. And then the tip for myself this week is to sort out my priorities and filter for what's most important. I have too many projects going on, and I need to accept that at some point and figure out how to navigate that or prioritize them or whatever, because I just don't have a clear image of exactly what is the most important thing that I'm doing right now. And in order to plan for the long term, I definitely need to sort out those priorities. Like it's getting a little too messy, a little bit too chaotic, so I've got to figure that out. All right. That's everything I've got for you this week. If you want to, you can come hang out at the Twitch channel. I'll be streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 to 7 Eastern time, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., I should say. What are we doing this week? We're doing the usual. We're doing Celeste on Monday, Dust Force on Wednesday, and Hollow Knight on Friday. And before that, we're doing some game dev. So 3 hours of game dev, 2 hours of video games. And we've got the Discord if you want to join the Discord. I've got the Ko-Fi if you want to help support the podcast, get a few little perks with it too. There's a link in the description. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out. That's everything for this week. Get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.